Well, looks like the new DC universe is here, and it's starting with James Gunn's Superman. I suppose briefly I should mention that I've never been particularly attached to Superman as a character. He's always been a bit too shiny, good, and overpowered for my tastes, where I like my characters to have some adversity in their lives, which is why Spider-Man has always been my favorite. Now there's a guy who goes through the ringer. That being said, I actually like most of the modern Superman movies, whether it's Superman Returns or Man of Steel, though I can't say I've completely loved either of them. Naturally, these films are going to be compared to one another, just like all of them are compared to Richard Donner's original. What I'll say is that Returns feels more contemplative, Man of Steel feels more epic. Frankly, I'm not overly interested in getting to the Snyder versus Gunn debate. Neither filmmaker seems interested in that conversation, so why should I be? Man of Steel felt very much like a Superman movie made by Zack Snyder, and this Superman feels like a Superman movie made by James Gunn. Just like how comic books rotate through writers and artists, the movies also change creative teams, and with that comes a different direction. Man of Steel seemed to aim more for what if Superman appeared in the real world as we know it, where Gunn's Superman feels very much like it exists in a comic book world, and it doesn't shy away from its comic roots. Right away we're introduced to the more surreal elements that wouldn't have worked in a movie as self-serious as Man of Steel. He's got a super dog and a bunch of robot servants in his big ol' ice palace in Antarctica. In fact, it's so sudden and early in the movie that it feels like Gunn is making the distinction, so we're all clear this is a very different Superman. And it works for me because it feels like you're picking up a comic book for the first time. Nobody, or at least hardly anybody, really buys the first comic like it's Action Comics 1 or Amazing Fantasy 15 or whatever. We don't usually start with the origin story. So this film drops us partway through a new story in a new world, and we just have to accept that Superman just has this history where he's got robot helpers, and Lex Luthor has a brand new dangerous super being at his disposal. And it worked for me. I didn't need any explanation. I got all the information that I needed from the opening text and the fact that we all kind of know the Superman mythos at this point, right? Like, to some degree. I mean, we may not all know that there was a super horse, but that's okay because he's not in this movie. Maybe in the next one, though? And there is a lot more comic book silliness in this world, and Gunn's trademark sense of humor helps sell it. There's extra superhero characters like the Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl, and you start to get a sense of who they are as you go. And there are concepts like pocket universes and stuff. It sounds insane when you say it out loud. It seems like a lot of deeper lore that perhaps movie studios assumed that audiences would need to be introduced to slowly. Like we needed something more grounded, and then, that's what Marvel did like 15 plus years ago. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that audiences get comic book movies. They can understand the bigger, sillier concepts without it all being spoon-fed to them, as long as it's handled competently, like it is here. I mean, if James Gunn was able to sell us on a talking raccoon and a giant tree being best buds in a space prison, then why not anything in this film? Just commit to the story you're telling and the audience will be right there with you. The casting of the film was also great, with more working type actors than the previous films, which put in a lot more celebrities. Not that I didn't like Zack Snyder's casting, but Gunn just cast his movies differently. It's a lot more actors who you've seen somewhere, but what movie was it? I gotta check IMDb. Oh right, it's that guy from that movie. Probably the biggest names in this film are Nicholas Hoult and Nathan Fillion, though some other James Gunn regulars slip their way into small roles. Devin Cornsweet plays his part with full earnestness. I could see him becoming a fan favorite, though the inescapable shadow of Christopher Reeve is always cast over the character. But he brings a different kind of energy to the role. Reeve was quite restrained, where Cornsweet gets much more passionate about what he believes to be a righteous cause. And the conversation between him and Lois about interfering with international relations is essential for the film. Superman and his actions are not bound by law and jurisdictions. He works on a moral compass, which thankfully is tilted toward good. That's where Superman gets interesting. How does a society cope with someone that's so powerful he can alter the course of humanity? That's also why meta-commentary comics about powerful heroes are so interesting, like Superman Red Sun and Watchmen. I do have some issues with the film, the biggest of which was the score. It's just not particularly interesting to listen to, and unfortunately unoriginal. At certain heroic moments in the movie, they fall back on using John Williams' classic Superman theme. I would prefer it if they just wrote original music and try a Superman theme of their own. I understand that the Williams score from the 70s is unbeatable, but it feels like they're throwing their hands up in the air and just giving up. And any new tunes didn't really stand out to me at all. It was just serviceable enough so the movie worked. In Superman Returns, it made more sense to reuse some of Williams' music because it was supposed to be a sequel to the old Superman films. This one isn't. And while Hans Zimmer didn't make a particularly memorable score for Man of Steel, at least it was all original music. What I can say about this film is that it does feel more like Superman. It focuses on the fact that Superman has heart. The story is about the man behind the super. It discusses who he is intrinsically and how that person isn't defined by some predetermination or mandate given to him. Superman is super because he chooses every day to use his powers for good and to save people. And squirrels. And when you humanize a being who is unbelievably powerful like that, well, that's how you get more Superman fans. And while I liked previous Superman movies, I may have to admit that this is the first time that a filmmaker has sold me on the Superman character. Let's give it 4.5 out of 5. Thanks for watching, everybody. Did you watch Superman yet? Let me know in the comments down below. Can't wait to hear from you. Thanks so much.